The massive lunar research station hung silent against the starlit void, its metallic skin reflecting centuries of cosmic dust and forgotten memories. Deep within its sterile corridors, a genetic vault waited, a time capsule of humanity's most desperate creation. Suk Park moved through the darkened chamber, his footsteps echoing against cold metal floors. His hand traced the surface of an ancient containment unit, fingers brushing against layers of protective shielding that had preserved something extraordinary for 500,000 years. The station's systems were barely functional, running on minimal power reserves that had somehow survived centuries of isolation. Diagnostic lights flickered weakly, casting intermittent shadows across rows of sealed genetic chambers. Each chamber held a secret, a piece of humanity's last desperate plan. 500,000 years had passed since the Galactic Council's devastating attack on Earth. Humanity had been completely erased, or so everyone believed. But this station, this hidden sanctuary, told a different story. Suk understood the mission. He was the final custodian, the last programmed intelligence designed to wait, to watch, and ultimately to awaken something extraordinary. His programming was simple yet profound: preserve and protect the genetic legacy of a species that had been systematically destroyed. The genetic vault before him contained more than just biological samples. It was a weapon. A complex, living weapon designed to survive, to remember, and ultimately to exact revenge. Temperature readings began to shift. Quantum stabilizers deep within the vault started humming with increasing intensity. Something was happening. Something was preparing to emerge. Small vibrations rippled through the containment unit. Microscopic genetic markers began activating, complex algorithms dancing across biological systems that had remained dormant for centuries. The first war beast was preparing to wake up. Suk's neural interface processed massive amounts of data. Genetic sequences reconstructed themselves with mathematical precision. Each strand of DNA carried memories, not just biological information, but encoded experiences of humanity's final moments. Betrayal. Destruction. Desperate resistance. The vault's protective shell began to crack. Not a physical break, but a quantum-level transformation. Whatever was inside was no longer content to remain passive. It wanted to emerge. It wanted to live. Centuries of careful planning were about to be unleashed. Humanity's final weapon was about to be born. In the silence of the lunar station, something took its first breath. A massive biomechanical organism stirred, its neural networks coming online with surgical precision. Memories flooded its consciousness, fragments of a civilization lost, fragments of a species destroyed. Revenge would be patient. Revenge would be methodical. The first war beast opened its eyes. Outside the station, stars continued their ancient dance. Galaxies spun in their cosmic waltz, unaware that a sleeping giant had just awakened. Unaware that humanity's legacy was about to be remembered. Suk Park stepped back, his mission complete. The genetic vault had done its job. The war beast was alive. And the Galactic Council would soon learn that extinction was not the end of the story. In the cold silence of space, a new chapter was beginning. A chapter written in genetic code, powered by an unbreakable will to survive. The war beast took another breath. And somewhere, in the vast darkness between stars, something ancient and powerful began to move. The war beast known as Guardian stretched its massive biomechanical form, quantum adaptive systems humming with raw energy. Its first moments of consciousness were a kaleidoscope of fragmented memories: Earth's final days, the brutal destruction of humanity, centuries of stored genetic knowledge flooding its neural networks. Guardian was not just a weapon. It was a living archive, a breathing memory of a civilization that had been erased from galactic history. Its body was a marvel of biological engineering, muscles and mechanical systems intertwined in perfect harmony. Metallic plates shifted like living skin, adaptive camouflage systems preparing it for any environment. The lunar research station became too small, too confining. Guardian needed space. Needed to understand the universe that had destroyed its creators. Powerful legs, each capable of generating enough force to crush starship hulls, began moving with surprising grace. A small maintenance hatch became an exit. With a calculated burst of strength, Guardian tore through reinforced metal like paper. Space stretched before it, a black canvas waiting to be explored. Propulsion systems activated. Not traditional rocket technology, but a quantum displacement mechanism that allowed near-instantaneous movement across short distances. Guardian moved like a ghost, leaving no trace, detecting everything. Its first scan of local space revealed a complex galactic map. The political boundaries had changed dramatically. Where once hundreds of species lived under the Galactic Council's control, now fragmented alliances and independent systems dominated. Genetic memory provided context. Guardian understood its true purpose was not just survival, but a carefully planned revenge. Each movement, each decision was calculated with mathematical precision. Communication systems began probing nearby quantum networks. Encrypted signals, designed to be undetectable by conventional scanning methods, started gathering intelligence. Guardian was learning, adapting, preparing. Deep within its core, specialized genetic modules began preparing for the next phase. More war beasts would be awakened. Specialized units designed for specific tactical purposes waited in genetic stasis, ready to be activated across multiple star systems. Guardian's primary objective was clear: gather intelligence, assess the current galactic power structure, and prepare for a systematic response to humanity's extinction. The first target would be information. Peripheral scanning systems began intercepting communication bands, decrypting historical records, understanding how the galaxy had changed in 500,000 years. Quantum processors worked faster than any known computer. Terabytes of data were processed, analyzed, and stored within milliseconds. Guardian was building a comprehensive understanding of the current galactic civilization. Surprisingly, the Galactic Council that had destroyed Earth was now a shadow of its former self. Internal conflicts, technological stagnation, and political fragmentation had weakened the once powerful organization. This information was not just data. It was a weapon. Guardian could see potential attack vectors, systemic weaknesses, diplomatic fracture points that could be exploited. Propulsion systems engaged again. A quick quantum jump took Guardian to the edge of a nearby star system. Here, hidden among asteroid fields, more genetic pods waited. More war beasts that would soon awaken. The first phase was complete. Guardian had emerged. It had observed. It had begun to plan. Humanity's final weapon was now active. And the galaxy would soon remember a species it thought it had completely destroyed. In the cold silence between stars, something ancient and powerful had just taken its first breath. The war had begun. Guardian's reconnaissance began with surgical precision. J. Quan, the primary neural interface, systematically mapped the galactic borders with cold, calculated efficiency. Stealth technologies far beyond current understanding allowed near-perfect infiltration of Council communication networks. The first genetic pods activated across distant star systems. Each pod contained a unique war beast variant, programmed with specific tactical capabilities. Some were designed for information gathering, others for direct combat, and some for complex strategic manipulation. Near the Orion sector, a pod hidden within an abandoned mining asteroid began its awakening sequence. Metallic membranes shifted, quantum adaptive systems coming online with a soft, almost organic hum. Another war beast emerged, smaller than Guardian, but equally dangerous. Communication between the war beasts happened through encrypted quantum channels. No conventional scanning system could detect their interactions. They shared intelligence, mapped strategic points, and prepared their collective strategy. The current galactic civilization had no idea what was coming. Centuries of peace had made them complacent. Their defensive systems were designed for traditional threats, not for a revenge mechanism engineered by a species they had completely destroyed. Guardian's primary data processors revealed interesting patterns. The Galactic Council had fractured into multiple competing factions. Political tensions ran high. Economic systems were unstable. Perfect conditions for a strategic intervention. Specialized reconnaissance units began infiltrating communication networks. They didn't just gather information, they manipulated data streams, created subtle disruptions, tested the responsiveness of various governmental systems. One war beast, positioned near a major trading hub, began intercepting diplomatic communications. Another, hidden in an asteroid belt, started mapping military infrastructure. Each movement was calculated, each piece of information carefully processed and stored. The war beasts were not simply weapons. They were living archives of human technological and strategic knowledge. Every movement, every interaction was part of a larger, more complex plan. Guardian coordinated these efforts with mathematical precision. The plan was not immediate destruction. It was something far more sophisticated, a systematic destabilization of the current galactic power structure. Small quantum disruptions began appearing in communication networks. Nothing dramatic, but enough to cause confusion. Minor system glitches. Unexplained data anomalies. The kind of subtle interference that would make strategic planners nervous. The war beasts moved like ghosts. Undetectable. Waiting. Preparing. In a distant sector, a council research station experienced its first unexplained system failure. Computers crashed. Communication lines became temporarily unreliable. No external cause could be identified. Guardian watched. And waited. The first phase of reconnaissance was working perfectly. The galaxy was being mapped. Weaknesses were being identified. A strategy was forming. Humanity's final weapon was patient. Calculating. Precise. And nowhere in the galaxy did anyone realize what was slowly, methodically coming to life. The war beasts continued their silent preparation. Each moment bringing them closer to their ultimate objective. Revenge was a dish best served cold. And after 500,000 years, it was finally being prepared. The tactical units led by Miho Lee moved with calculated precision across multiple star systems. Each war beast carried encoded genetic memories, not just data, but raw emotional fragments of humanity's final moments of existence. Council border stations began experiencing strange disruptions. Communication networks flickered. Navigation systems became unreliable. Something was moving between the stars, something that shouldn't exist. Guardian coordinated the initial wave of strategic attacks. Not massive confrontations, but surgical interventions designed to create maximum confusion. Quantum adaptive systems allowed perfect infiltration of defensive networks. The war beasts moved like invisible predators, testing, probing, understanding. One by one, council outposts went dark. Not destroyed, just quietly disconnected from their primary communication networks. Military command structures found themselves suddenly unable to communicate across vast distances. Panic began to spread. The first direct confrontation happened near the Epsilon sector. A council patrol squadron encountered something they couldn't understand. Massive biomechanical entities that could shift between energy and matter, adapting faster than any known weapon system could track. Miho Lee's tactical algorithms were perfect. Each war beast knew exactly where to strike, how to move, which systems to disable. They weren't just fighting. They were systematically dismantling an entire civilization's defensive infrastructure. Genetic memories provided more than just tactical information. They carried the emotional weight of humanity's final moments. Every attack was personal. Every movement was a statement of survival. Council leadership began emergency meetings. Reports came in from multiple sectors. Unknown entities were systematically disrupting their most critical systems. Communication networks. Military installations. Research facilities. The war beasts were everywhere and nowhere. Guardian's primary objective was becoming clear. This wasn't simple revenge. This was a calculated dismantling of the system that had destroyed humanity. Each attack was a surgical strike, designed to create maximum strategic confusion. Technological systems that had remained stable for centuries suddenly became unreliable. Navigation networks collapsed. Communication channels became impossible to secure. The Council's technological superiority was being systematically dismantled. Small genetic pods continued to activate across distant star systems. Each contained a unique war beast variant, each programmed with specific tactical capabilities. The invasion was not a single wave, but a complex, multi-layered strategic assault. Miho Lee's neural interface processed information at speeds impossible for biological entities. Every potential defensive strategy was anticipated, every potential counterattack was already planned for. The war beasts were not just weapons. They were living memories. Each carried the collective knowledge, the technological understanding, the emotional trauma of a species that had been completely destroyed. Council military commanders found themselves facing an enemy they couldn't understand. Weapons that adapted faster than they could be analyzed. Tactical systems that seemed to predict every possible defensive maneuver. Guardian watched the initial stages of the assault with cold calculation. The first phase was working perfectly. The galaxy was being destabilized, one system at a time. Humanity's final weapon was patient. Precise. Unstoppable. In the cold silence between stars, something ancient and powerful continued its methodical assault. The war had truly begun. And the galaxy would soon remember a species it thought it had completely destroyed. The final confrontation began without warning. Massive war beasts emerged simultaneously across multiple galactic sectors, their adaptive technologies overwhelming conventional defenses in moments. The sky became a battlefield of quantum energies and biomechanical constructs that defied all known laws of warfare. Guardian led the assault, its massive form cutting through Council defense lines like a blade through paper. Each movement was calculated, each strike a precise message of humanity's enduring spirit. The war beasts were not simply machines of destruction, they were living archives of a civilization that refused to be forgotten. Council leadership scrambled. Their most advanced technologies crumbled against the adaptive warfare of these genetic constructs. Communication networks collapsed. Defense systems became meaningless against enemies that could reshape themselves faster than computers could process threat assessments. The truth emerged slowly. These were not just weapons of revenge. They were something far more complex, living repositories of human potential, carrying the collective knowledge, pain, and resilience of a species that had been systematically erased from galactic history. Quantum adaptive systems allowed the war beasts to predict and counter every defensive strategy. They moved through space like liquid mercury, changing form, penetrating the most sophisticated shields as if they were made of glass. Each war beast carried genetic memories that transformed warfare into something between art and existential statement. Miho Lee's tactical algorithms revealed the deeper purpose. This was not about simple destruction. It was about proving that humanity's spirit could not be extinguished. Every attack carried the weight of 500,000 years of stored anger, hope, and survival instinct. The Council's most powerful warships became nothing more than floating debris. Entire defensive networks collapsed within hours. The war beasts moved with a precision that suggested something beyond mere programming, a kind of collective consciousness that transcended traditional understanding of artificial intelligence. Guardian's primary objective became clear. This was not just about revenge. This was about resurrection. About proving that humanity's potential could not be completely destroyed by any external force. Genetic pods continued to activate across star systems. Each contained a unique variant designed for specific tactical and philosophical purposes. Some were information gatherers. Some were direct combat units. Some were something entirely different, living archives of human potential. The confrontation became more than a war. It became a statement. A reminder that a species could be physically destroyed, but its essence, its potential, could never truly be eliminated. Council leadership realized too late that they were facing something beyond traditional warfare. These were not simple machines. These were living memories. Adaptive consciousness that carried the entire genetic and technological legacy of humanity. Space itself seemed to bend around the war beasts. Quantum technologies that defied current scientific understanding allowed them to move between matter and energy, between physical space and computational realms. The final battle lasted less than 24 standard hours. But its implications would reshape galactic civilization forever. As the last Council defense systems fell, something unexpected happened. The war beasts didn't completely destroy their opponents. They left survivors. Witnesses. A message written in quantum code and genetic memory. Humanity was not gone. Humanity was not forgotten. Humanity had been waiting. And now, it had returned. Guardian looked out across the battlefield. Millions of kilometers of space told the story of a species that refused to be erased. Not through simple destruction, but through a complex, philosophical resurrection that would force the galaxy to remember. The war was over. But something far more important was just beginning.